Welcome to the Two Tokens podcast. During these episodes, we will invite guests onto our show and discuss everything token related. You can expect to hear about token business models, the underlying technology stack, token governance, but also more mainstream topics such as NFTs. Does this sound interesting to you? Then make sure you subscribe and keep listening. And now, on to the episode.
Welcome back after the break, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Erich Schoeckel. Erich, I hope I've pronounced that correctly and not sort of done injustice to your German roots.
It's perfect, Jonny. Thank you for having me on the show, and it's great to be here.
Brilliant. Now, Erich, you're involved with an outfit called Two Tokens, and you've written an article about MiCA, giving some sort of clarity on tokenization, but there's still some way to go. But before we get into the article, would you mind just giving the listeners just a very brief background as to what you did before you got involved in sort of tokenization and blockchain and stuff like that? And then perhaps just explain a little bit about what are you doing with Two Tokens?
Yeah, actually, so about 7-8 years ago, I was working for this accountancy software firm, doing some research on adding new functionality to the accountancy software, and stumbled upon Bitcoin and thought, hey, that would be nice to do some peer-to-peer payments. We had about 400,000 registered users in the Benelux, and would be nice to do something like that as a very, very new thing. So in my background within accountancy and accountancy software, done a lot of things there. This was an eye-opener to make that possible, make payments possible without using banks. And well, in the end, it didn't work out that way because it was very early.
Very early days, that was.
Very early. And it's not that easy to implement that into an accounting system either. So, but learned a lot, never left the space since, and been doing a lot of things on crypto and blockchain since then. And within Two Tokens, we do a lot on bringing projects to the market. So doing research on projects, open source, with larger companies and startups, bring them together and try to standardize value chains using crypto and blockchain and Web3 solutions over value chains. So not in silos, but through the whole life cycle of products or even documents like invoices.
Right. So that sounds very impressive. What do you mean, though? So give some examples of some of the projects that you've been sort of working on, and what are the problems they're actually solving?
Yeah, so if you take something simple like an invoice, it's quite a simple document. You know the value because it's printed on the document. Companies, small and large, they send out invoices, tons of them every day, but they have to wait for their money for a long time sometimes, especially if you send it to the government. It might take you ages before they pay your invoices.
Very true.
So if you tokenize them and make it possible to finance them, so have the money today, and then still track what's happening during the life cycle of the invoice, that gives businesses an opportunity to grow and to do the things they want to do and not chasing their money all the time. So creating a standard for an invoice, because you have to create something that is standardized, but you don't want to disclose all the information on the invoice, but still the guys that want to fund that invoice want to know the validity of it. They want to know the amount. They want to know if the clients of these companies are good for their money. So you have to disclose some of that information, but not all, and make sure that you disclose it only to the people that want to fund you and not to your competitor who just wants to know what you pay for your copy paper or your whatever you need in the company.
Okay, but what's the difference between that and factoring, though? Because you could go to a factory and you could actually get money, get a source of finance that way.
Yeah, true. That's completely true. You can do that, and the factoring companies are quite expensive.
Right.
Within blockchain, you can make sure that an invoice is only financed once. So the double spend problem, right? That Bitcoin solves. You have the double lend problem that you solve by tokenizing it. So you can check easily what the status of that invoice is, because you follow that everything that's happens to that invoice is registered online, is registered on a blockchain, so you can follow what happens, and you know that it's only be funded once. So, and it's paid. You know that it's paid by the client, and so you know you had your money is getting back if you're the investor or the lender. So that's much more transparency. It goes much faster than the traditional factoring company. So yeah, that's the thing that it solves.
Right.
Speed, transparency, and cheaper.
Okay. And this is what for all sorts of different businesses? What, or is it mainly sort of small, medium-sized businesses that this is finding?
Actually, everybody can use it, and we are talking as two tokens. We give that to the market because we designed that with a couple of partners in there, like companies like Defactor or Krause in the US, banks in ABN AMRO in the Netherlands. We work on trying to contain that problem and make sure that we do the tokenization in a sense that we understand. And what happens then, so everybody can use that standard to make sure that they tailor that to their needs. So the way they provide liquidity, whether it comes from DeFi protocols within the blockchain, or they go to traditional investors, or they create a fund to make sure that they have the money to lend out to these people that request money. That's up to the people that take this standard and make it into a product.
Right. Okay. So what Two Tokens is doing is rather than getting bogged down in the sort of the technical side of things, is very much trying to provide commercial business solutions. And obviously you've got an example there of effectively unlocking capital faster through invoicing. But you've also done stuff in the energy field. You've worked with the Port of Rotterdam in terms of bills of lading. You've been doing stuff with notaries in terms of helping to digitize the whole process of share issuance. So there's quite a range of different businesses, nothing to do with crypto, but actually do with commercial applications of the technology.
Actually, using the technology that's available, and whether it's crypto or not, is that's our starting point. But if we decide that for a specific part of what we offer, crypto is not necessary, we won't use it, of course. But that's a thing that we discover when talking to the large companies and the startups together, to make sure that we offer something to the market that is useful.
Got it. And can you explain a little bit, because the article you talk about the masterclasses. So what are these masterclasses, or how would you describe them? I'm being a bit tongue-in-cheek here, because I know you kindly asked me to come along and present the last one, which we very much were trying to draw on examples, and we got examples from Switzerland and America and the UK and Germany. But would you mind just telling the listeners, what was the idea behind the masterclasses, and just an overview of what the different topics that you cover?
Well, there's a lot of unknown about Web3, about blockchain, about crypto within companies, and with the masterclasses, we try to share that information to our partners, and actually anyone who wants to register for the masterclass. It's a session. It's 5 or 6 days sessions of 4 hours, where we even create a token, so that people understand how easy it is to create a token, so that the token itself is not the solution, right? It's how you embed the token in your value chain, in your processes, which makes it more challenging, and how we talk about the legislation that covers the way you use tokenization in your value chain, and what's possible there and what's not possible there. And so that's also where MiCA comes along, because MiCA gives a framework based on the information the legislators had about 3 years ago. And since this is a rapid growing market, there is a lot of things that we do now that's not in MiCA, because we didn't know that was coming. So 3 years ago, we didn't know that MiCA was coming at all. We didn't know MiCA was covered. It was of course started because of the Libra project that started back then, and everybody was worried that Facebook would take over the market there. So we need to have some regulation here. So that's when the EU started with MiCA. But things like NFTs and the way NFTs are used, non-fungible tokens, that's not covered in MiCA because we didn't talk about them 3 years ago.
Right.
And that's what we try to explain in these master classes, going back to value propositions, how you can use tokenization in there, and then make sure that everybody understands the terminology, and also do some handwork by creating a token, give some insights in the history of tokenization, but also in the history of money, if you use tokens as a financial instrument, and what the law means to you there.
Okay, and the attendees, they're quite a cross selection of sort of professional advisors. You've got obviously companies that are looking to know more about this. Some of them already doing. You mentioned ABN AMRO, for example, that they've attended, I know, and that they've already issued digital debt instruments and got a whole series now lined up for new issuance they're looking to try and do over the next sort of year or so. So a range of expertise and knowledge, but it's really trying to draw it together. And these are paid for. People have to pay to come to these things. But over a series of time, they can learn from each other as well as the sort of experts that you bring in to sort of run the courses.
Yeah, so we have experts from like CMS, the law firm, but also Erasmus University, who do the academic perspective, and that's what we want to do. And the participants come from that's people that just started, until very mature people that are already longer in the scene, working for a big company. You're right. So ABN AMRO was one of the participants there, or they sent some of their staff to the meetings, to the masterclasses, and they did the tokenization of that bond, which was for them an experiment as well, right? To see what was possible, what was happening, and that's what banks do all the time. They experiment a lot. But there's a lot of people working for these banks, right? So there's a lot of people that need to be educated, and so that they can really staff these projects with the people that have some basic knowledge, and make sure that they understand what they do and how to do it, and also or not to do it. That's also a possibility, of course. And within 2 tokens, we guide them on that journey. We guide companies on that journey. We help them there. And in the end, if things need to be built, they don't come to us to build it, because we're not builders. We're helping it on that journey, trying to advise them what to ask to a builder to create a system.
So you're almost mentoring and coaching. You're not providing a consulting role and then saying, "Oh, and we can now build, and we're now blockchain developers." No. You're more of a mentoring and coaching,
exactly,
and helping to ask the intelligent questions based on the experience that you and people like Alex Bosch, have been in the market now for many years, certainly.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly. So we don't want to sit on the chair of people who are going to build it for them. We don't guide projects to, deep down, but we help them to make sure that these things find their way within their organization and within the value chain, because it's very important to stress again that these Web3 solutions, tokenization, blockchain are not silos within a company. You need to be able to take information from somebody who's prior to you in the process and pass it on to somebody who's after you in the process. And that can be internal. Of course, there can be internal processes as well, but most of the time, there's also external companies and external parties that you work with that need that information, and there is the immutability of blockchains are very good to facilitate that.
Okay, and what I found interesting, you announced this is going back a couple of weeks, so the end of June, beginning of July. You announced that 2 tokens had been admitted into a regulatory sandbox with the Dutch government. Can you just explain a little about what you're trying to do and why the Dutch government have asked you to join the sandbox?
Well, there's 2 different things. There's a European sandbox that we're participating in, but what we are going to do for the Dutch government is to look at the status of Web3 and blockchain companies within Europe and within the Netherlands specifically, So just to see what would be an advantage for them to come to the Netherlands, or what's holding them back to stay in the Netherlands or come to the Netherlands, and to make sure that there is a more holistic view on how companies should be facilitated by the government, to make sure that we are doing the thing. So if you want to create a virtual asset service provider role in the Netherlands, and we have about, I think, 40 of these in the Netherlands, then they need to know, the government wants to know why they come here, what they need, what their needs are, and what's holding companies back, or what's making companies leaving the Netherlands. And it's probably a very interesting research topic to make sure that we as the Netherlands, or we as Europe, make sure that it will be the place to be in the future, where blockchain and Web3 companies will establish themselves and go to market.
Got it. So, but it's interesting because we were looking at the virtual asset service providers, VASP, and Europe's actually second only to Canada. So presumably MiCA, by the sort of the regulations that you've actually have, which under MiCA is looking at sort of the market in crypto assets. So it was very much initially looking at sort of the cryptocurrency sector, but it's given some regulatory guidance. And I know that this doesn't become law till 2024, but nevertheless, it gives some comfort for companies to say, okay, well, Europe's given us a framework, we can work within that. Whereas you've got other
exactly. You know the boundaries, and they're not perfect, but at least it gives you guidelines. Until recently, you could go to, for instance, the Authority Financial Markets, and they would say, I don't care what you're going to do, just do it, and afterwards we look at it, and we take our supervisory role and see if you've done it properly. And MiCA gives us the viewpoint from the beginning, and not after you've done all your work for 2 years or more. And that's good. And it's not perfect. We all know that. And there will be a MiCA 2.0 and there will be a MiCA 3.0 because of this technology is evolving very fast. Same as we saw it with what we call in the UK open banking, we call PSD 2. Yep. We're working on PSD 3 already. Same there. It never will be perfect. The possibilities of technology, the possibility of the markets, the demands of the markets of companies, they will always go faster than the law governing it.
Right, but good to see the government, and I know you've had some funding from the EU. So this is, two tokens very much at the heart, not just on the commercial side, but talking to governments about and helping them to understand the sort of advantage and disadvantage of the technology and tokenization of assets and data and such. But Erich, really interesting. If people are interested and want to know how to get involved in Two Tokens, come on a masterclass or yourself, is the best way to get hold of you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, or just via twotokens.org, and reach out to us. That's possible, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Yes.
Okay, and it's Erich. You've slipped an H in there. It's always interesting for an Englishman. So it's Erich.
Yes, that's the German spelling, right? So,
and well, I suppose it is. But being a Brit, I suppose we don't normally have. I'm dyslexic. We don't. It's not Erick, is it? It's Eri. There's no H, no K.
CH, yes.
And Schoeckel, SCH.
Yeah.
Go on. How am I meant to pronounce it?
It's Schoeckel in German, but there's not many people that pronounce it that way outside Germany. So, yeah.
Schoeckel. It sounds almost like you come from the family of Smurfs.
Something like that, yeah. I'm a bit taller, though.
You certainly are. You'd make a great basketball player, I can tell you. All right, Erich, really, really interesting. And obviously, if you'd like to get a copy of Erich's article, then please reach out to Erich on LinkedIn, or you can contact myself, Jonny Fry, also on LinkedIn. And we'll hopefully get you back. Be great to get you back towards the end of the year, because I know you're working on a number of different projects, and it'd be great to get some feedback as to
Or
both how the
yeah.
masterclasses are going and some of these other projects, because you are solving real problems as opposed to, saying, here's a solution. Now, where's this best going to work? So really, really interesting stuff, Erich.
Yeah, and the masterclasses start again in September. So after summer, we start the next series of masterclasses, and they run about every 2 weeks until the end of the year.
Brilliant. Okay, Erich, thank you very much, and we look forward to speaking to you, as I say, later in the year.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Jonny.
That was it for today's podcast. Thank you for listening in, and please subscribe so you don't miss out on our upcoming episodes. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find our contact details at www.twotokens.org.